Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by asking you all a question. I won't ask if you hang your laundry up instead of using the dryer. I won't ask if you eat a vegetarian diet. I won't ask if you fly to the school. I won't even ask if you're sick of hearing these types of questions. But I will ask, if you could live a life of wealth, of power, or of no harm to the environment, which would you choose? My name is Lorien Bray. I'm 17 years old, and I'm not an expert on anything yet. But what I can speak with you confidently about is a teenager's authentic perspective on the climate crisis. So today, we'll be exploring whether Gen Z really does care about climate change. This is a question that's been on my mind for a while now. Coming from a background of environmental activism and volunteering, it's been difficult to consider the possibility that we do not care enough or at all about climate change. I've come to examine my own attitudes and behaviours. Do my actions reflect what I'm protesting for? We know that we're losing a football pitch from the Amazon rainforest every 6 seconds. We know that we're causing a mass extinction. We know that climate change will be irreversible in 7 years. So why aren't we doing anything about it? Why don't people seem to care? To hear other teenage perspectives, I did a little anthropological research. I asked friends from all over the world how they felt about climate change. Do they care? Why not? What were some emotions that it brought up? Did it impact their actions in any way? This shed light on a huge web of factors. Here are some that I saw time and again. Most people would start with the sentence, I do care, but. And the primary concern that followed was our individual powerlessness. The knowledge that our own small actions will do nothing in the long run to avert climate change. Most people felt that it was up to governments and large multinational corporations to make meaningful change. Given that we teenagers have a position in neither one of these powerhouses, we're essentially powerless. Now you may be thinking that this attitude is highly problematic because it removes personal responsibility. By assuming that we're powerless, we're giving ourselves permission to sit back and watch the world burn. When in reality, we've seen teens just like ourselves reach a global profile. Shout out to Greta Thunberg. This leads us to the uncomfortable, dissonant conclusion that we're simultaneously powerless and powerful. We should always be doing more, but even if I decided to live a completely green lifestyle, climate change will happen nonetheless. This is the same justification many UWC students tell themselves. A United World Colleges student is meant to be a change maker, striving for peace and a sustainable future. Yet almost every single UWC student flies to school, including me. And justifications such as, that plane would have flown without me, sound like excuses, even to my own ears. How can we expect change if we're not willing to change ourselves? This attitude led me on to my next question. Why aren't we willing to change? And the answers can be summarized by a reply that particularly struck me. I'm tired of talking about it and being continuously shut down. People are tired of taking on the burden alone. And frankly, it's not a comfortable topic of conversation. The millions of climate refugees, thousands of critically endangered species, myriad of climate promises agreed on but not fulfilled. And finally, the burden placed on our shoulders to be the generation that solves it all. When when speaking with adults about this, I've picked up the sense that we're invested, we're motivated, the generation that finally cares. I've been told, you are the future. Well, I hate to break it to you, but if we're the future, you are the present. By the time I finish a master's degree at university, the climate crisis will be irreversible. So please, adults, stop investing all your hopes in us. Stop placing the future of the earth in hands that you don't even trust to vote. You may be wondering why, if a whole generation is so apathetic towards climate change, I'm up here speaking about it. Growing up, I lived a relatively green lifestyle out of habit. As a kid, I travelled from Cape Town to Kenya and back in a caravan with my family for a year. And this gave me a fundamental appreciation of nature and of simple living. At 14, I skipped school to protest, then went on to work and volunteer in the environmental sector. When offered a place at UWC, I took it despite the environmental costs. Does this make me a hypocrite? Does it mean that my actions do not reflect my values? Does it mean that I don't actually care when it requires making a personal sacrifice? Through thinking deeply about this topic, researching, discussing with people with a diverse range of opinions, I came to the conclusion that I care about climate change because I care about justice. A recent study by Monash University attributes 5 million extra deaths per year to climate change. Primarily in the global south, people are forced to migrate, they're killed, they're orphaned due to climate disasters. Flooding or drought mean that you can't grow crops. Without food or a livelihood, there's no way out. Meanwhile, in the West, we need at least 5 extra Earths to sustain the current rate of overconsumption that we're accustomed to. This doesn't sit right with me. Climate is a here and now problem, but those with the wealth and power to make change don't see themselves as directly affected. It's a far-off, vaguely concerning concept that impacts other people in future generations. This is a misconception. Already, we're seeing tropical diseases such as malaria springing up in the US due to a warmer climate. Refugees will flood into Europe and North America. Every single person is affected. So what we really need is culture change, right? To place less social value on material possessions, profit, and economic gain at any cost. System change is a phrase plastered over many environmental activism websites, but I get the sense that nobody really knows how. So we must look towards the people already living a sustainable lifestyle. Indigenous communities make up 5% of the global population, but protect 80% of Earth's biodiversity. And in many of those groups, your status is not tied to your possessions. So there's simply no motivation for overconsumption. Nature is to be respected, not exploited. In true UWC fashion, to learn more about the values of an indigenous group, I spoke to my neighbour living across the corridor from me. She has cultural roots in the Bedouin people of Egypt. They are nomadic, so material possessions are a burden. They take no more from the land than they need, because there's no reason to. Sharing holds much more importance than private ownership. However, many Bedouin people are being forced to adopt a less traditional lifestyle due to factors such as private property restricting movement and a changing climate, causing unpredictable weather and seasonal patterns. Taking an example from a different indigenous context, Chief Seattle, a Native American, famously said, "The earth does not belong to man, man belongs to the earth." This quote not only illustrates a deep respect and gratitude towards nature, but shows that belonging and fulfillment do not come from your status or your wealth, but from the land surrounding us. Bringing these concepts into mainstream society seems like a utopia, not a reality. As teenagers who could only stress about one life-altering thing at a time, and for now, it's exams, it seems physically impossible to start a culture change, much less alter the priorities of governments. This circles me back to the first factor that I began this talk with, the dissonance between our individual powerlessness, yet personal responsibility. In summary, we do care, but not enough. Not enough to put it before everything. Not enough for it to majorly affect our lifestyle. Not enough for change to be guaranteed. I want you to know that the purpose of this talk was not to make you guilty, anxious, or overwhelmed. I wanted to give everyone in the room the opportunity to be completely honest with themselves. What is your own personal relationship with climate change? For adults in the audience, there's another purpose: to break any sort of misconception that you can rely on us to solve the climate crisis. Again, we are the future, but you are the present. Thank you.